Hey friends, it is 10:30 at night and I have just spent the past I don't know, 4 hours maybe turning this what was once a futon cover that the fabric that I love um into a, can you see this? Caftan. I don't know how to say that. One of those big, like, comfy robe type, dress type. I don't know what you call it. Caftan. Caftan. I don't know how to pronounce that. And I am on the last little tie. So I thought, let me say hello to my friends while I finish this up. I had my therapy session today, and I think I've mentioned it before, we do this thing called parts work, which has its, like, I think it has something to do with something called in, in, internal IFS, internal family systems. So I don't know as much about IFS, but the way that my therapist describes the parts work is that um, you go inside yourself and you think about different parts of yourself that might have some information to give you about things that you're having difficulties with or things that you don't understand or what have you. So I think it basically is the internal family systems theory, but I haven't read or learned about that. But basically the way my therapist does it is she she set it up so that I picture with my eyes closed like a living room, or at one point she said I could picture it like a conference room, but that felt, or like a meeting room with a big table, but that felt a little bit like cold to me. So I picture like a big living room, and then I ask if there's any parts of me that want to come and if they have anything to say to help me with A, B, or C. And I sort of say what it is that I'm wondering about. And we've been doing this for, at this point, I think it might be over a year. And she combines it with something called EMDR, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. Eye magnetization something. It's used for trauma and for helping people with trauma. And usually they do it where you look at a screen or you look at a thing and it has a dot that goes back and forth from right to left and you follow it with your eyes. But when I was little, I had brain injuries, and that kind of stuff makes me really nauseous, like video games or things moving on a screen. So she has me listen to it, and so it sounds like on the screen, if I were to look at it, there's like a dot, like a little dot bouncing from side to side, but I don't look at it. I just turn that part of the screen off, and I just listen, and it goes like dink, 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 and I have to wear headphones, and I do the therapy on Zoom, so this is all happening on Zoom, and it makes a little dink, dink sound in my right ear and then my left ear, my right ear and then my left ear. So there's something scientific about this bilateral stimulation, she calls it. And so today we were talking about how my sort of day job is as a speech pathologist, working in public schools, and I've never really liked it. I love the kids, but I just don't love telling them to do a certain thing, and I don't love the seriousness of it in terms of talking to administrators and parents and doing legal documents, and all of that feels really stressful to me. And we were talking about how, like, it seems like the thing that maybe is really hard for me is when things have rules, I get really stressed out. And so, versus like things like this, like me just sewing and talking and videotaping it, there's no rule of how to do that. There's no way to do that right or wrong. Um, and so I don't find it to be stressful because I can't do it wrong because there's no rule of how to do it right. So we were talking about like, where did I get that idea? Or is there like a part of me that is wanting things to have rules, or thinking that things should have rules, and thinking that I need to do things right or wrong or whatever. So we went into I closed my eyes. She starts the little dink, 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 dink. And I listen and picture the living room. And over the past year and a half when we've been doing this, like, I've gotten to know lots of my different parts. I usually call them by their age. So, like, my 3-year-old and my 14-year-old and my however old, all these different ages. So they come in like different characters, and they look like they did when they were that age. Um, and more recently, I had like older than me now parts come, which I think is probably one of my favorite parts because it feels like very reassuring. There's like a very old one that is always sitting in the corner, like reading tarot cards, which I really love that one. And then lately, like I said, there's been a couple ones like between me now and really old, and they all seem like so confident and like reassuring, like really sweet and comforting and stuff. Um, so I really like them. So when I went in immediately, they were all there, just sort of saying like, "You're doing great. Like we think you're this is so awesome." Like just being nice. And then pretty quickly, my 12-year-old self showed up, which I was kind of thinking it would be my like 14, 15-year-old self because they showed up a bunch in the recent past around like being um, just wanting me to follow the rules of like traditional, like be a wife, be a mother, like that's all you should ever do. You shouldn't be trying to think about ways to make your life more fulfilling. Like life is about self-sacrifice. So I kind of thought it was going to be that one, but it was my 12-year-old self, which I thought was really interesting. And as we went through it, like what usually happens is memories come up and the parts tell me, why they're feeling certain ways or why they're believing certain things. So I had all these memories of I actually had this really sweet friend named Joanna when I was 12, and I think kind of like 10 to 12. And she and I used to sew little clothes out of scraps from her mom, for these little rag doll bunnies that we had. So sweet, and we had so much fun. And so I was remembering that, and I was remembering how I was always very like young seeming for my age. So like when I was 12, my friends were, talking about dating and having crushes, and I was like wanting to play make believe on the playground and wanting to wear like prairie dresses and pretend that I was in prairie days. And I had like what do they call those, pantaloons, and a bonnet, and I desperately wanted like old fashioned lace up boots, and that's what was really important to me. And I was really into musical theater and dance at that point, and I think it was in 6th grade or maybe 7th grade that I got my first lead. I was Fern in Charlotte's Web, which was such a big deal. I had to share it with this girl, Deanna. So we switched off nights, but it was still such a big deal, and I was so happy. And I was just really creative and artistic. I loved singing, I loved dancing, I loved sewing. Um, I was taking art classes at that point. I just really loved all of that. And I was such a rule follower. Um, and my therapist and I talked about how, my whole world was about rules because my whole world was about uh, the evangelical Christianity that I grew up with, which was so rule heavy. And, but I had this side of me that was like so imaginative and so eccentric and, showing up in full costumes to 6th grade when it was like super not cool to be like that. And it was when I went into 7th grade that, like, I had a friend when I was I had that one friend, Joanna, and then I had another friend, Becca. Um, so I had a little bit of friends. I left my stuff downstairs, so I don't have scissors to snip this. But actually, I just need to sew this here, and then this will be the tie here. So when we showed up for 7th grade, Joanna didn't, I don't know, maybe Joanna had stopped going to school with me or something. I don't remember what happened with Joanna, but I was really sad because my one friend Becca was like, clearly had done a lot of maturing over the summer. And when we showed up on that first day, she was like in cool clothes. I remember she had shaved her legs, and we had agreed not to, and I felt so betrayed. and and she was just so cool and clearly not interested in me anymore, and I was so devastated. And it wasn't long after that I had my first experience where I realized that I liked this girl. I was really attracted to her, and it terrified me because I had been told by everyone I had ever interacted with that being gay or queer was like totally 100% off limits. And I remember so clearly that year just being like, okay, none of this stuff is acceptable and it's not gonna work. I can't be my quirky eccentric self, I can't like who I like. None of it's gonna work. And at that same phase, like the next time my sister and I tried out for the next musical theater play, they kind of do back-to-back plays. Neither of us got a big part, and it was sort of understood that the older you were in musical theater, like the worse parts you were going to get. The younger kids tend to get the main parts. And it kind of was an understanding that we weren't going to get good parts, and we weren't really that good at dance, and so we weren't really like the star there. And I sort of got the message that, like, if I wasn't the star, then it wasn't worth it to do these artistic things. And so we stopped doing dance, we stopped doing musical theater. I think I sort of let go of some of the art stuff. I definitely wasn't sewing anymore. I wasn't dressing quirky. I just started trying to fit in. And I think that was really the time period when that happened for me. I just sort of shut down and was like, okay, I'm going to need to follow the rules and be this status quo person, and was so sad. But I didn't ever really grieve that or, you know, acknowledge that. And um, it was really nice today to spend some time with that 12-year-old in my session and acknowledge, like, I think they're a pretty cool person, and I want to let myself be more like them, you know? And I think that this sort of slow, let me just put these pins down, past couple of months of me sewing again and letting myself, excuse me, I'm so tired, letting myself have more creative time and letting myself add something into the mix that's not for any other reason but for pleasure and for fun, and because I like it. Maybe I want to sew that down so it's more of a lays flat as a V. I think that has really been powerful for me. Grab some scissors. And to be able to give myself that feels really huge, and I don't know exactly what will come of it. But just being here with you all and meeting the few people that I have met has meant so much to me, and just having the energy and interest to do something that's not, just work or worrying about my kid or collapsing in exhaustion in front of the TV, having the energy and the interest to do these sewing videos and to be a part of this with you all has really meant so much to me. And I want to give myself more of that, and I really hope that, together as a community we can encourage each other to do more of that, because I really think it does matter. And there's a part of our, our authentic soul that I do believe is meant to contribute. And when we're shut down, we can't contribute as much as we would be able to when we're being our true selves, And I really feel like my true self is not a rule follower, like, do it right, keep your head down person. I think I'm a quirk. I think I'm a person who, will wear a futon cover that I sewed 2 lines down and put a little neck on. I think I'm that person. And I think I'm a person who likes to sew random little project and chit chat about what gives life meaning. I don't think I'm like a cross the T's and dot the I's, like get everything right speech pathologist person. I think that's why I love kids, because I think I really am childlike. But it's very painful for me to make kids, do these serious things that are so adult. And I'll keep doing it, as long as I need to support my kiddo. But I'm really happy that I'm giving myself these other options, and who knows, maybe it'll turn into something. So yeah, I'm going to be spending some time with my 12-year-old self over the next week, and something that I like to do with the parts work is like journal like I'm writing a letter to my different parts that come up, and then also write back from their perspective. It's kind of fun. Um, and it's kind of like your inner child, but it's like many, many more layers than just one inner child, because there are so many different parts of ourselves. Um, so I will definitely be spending some time doing that this week and thinking about what would that little 12-year-old enjoy. Ugh. And I didn't necessarily want to spend quite this long on this tonight, and tomorrow is going to be a very early morning going to pick up my kiddo from his other mom's house, but I think it was worth it. Pretty fun. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to tie that tie, but I think it would be fun if there was tassels on the bottom here, but I don't know how to make tassels. Maybe I'll figure that out. But anyways, my friends, I just wanted to share that little thought, and I hope you all have a beautiful next part of your day or night, wherever and whenever you end up watching this. And thanks for being with me on this journey. If you want to like or subscribe or leave a comment, I love hearing from people. And I also had the other thought today that, like, sometimes I compare myself to the people who do slow stitching, and they have these like very specific kind of like, lots and lots and lots of stitches on like two very muted pieces of fabric, and that's just not what I'm doing. But I still feel like slow stitching is the right word to use for what I am doing, and I feel like what I'm doing is I'm just sewing mindfully, which is what I feel like slow stitching is. I don't think slow stitching is like a certain kind of style of outcome. I think it's a mindset. So that's what I'm bringing to it. And yeah, I'll put in the description maybe tomorrow, but sometimes I like don't get to the description until after I post it. But I'll put the stuff about the community is coming up for us to have a Zoom together. If you want to join that, look at the link in the description. And my grief workshop is up. You can get a free PDF of the history of slow stitching. And this weekend, my goal is to work on the new workshop, which is going to be exploring the concept of the mother wound by Elizabeth Webster. Is that her name? I will double check. So that should be coming soon. Okay, sending everyone so much love. Take care.